Hello, and welcome to the video boss fight guide for Gharj, who is the second boss in the Eternity Vault operation. Gharj is a fairly straightforward boss, and you're going to find that the keys to success primarily revolve around movement and positioning, especially in hard mode. It's worth noting before we get into any more details, there really isn't any difference between story mode and hard mode, other than certain mechanics. One in particular hits a lot harder, so there's not a huge difference in strategy. So this video is intended to cover both, so I don't think I have any issues with that. So Gharj, as I said, is a fairly straightforward fight. You see here just an example of a video playing in the background. So while we intro the topic, and then we'll get into the mechanics, and we'll talk about strategy, talk roll by roll, and then we'll just talk about one or two things at the end. So in terms of group composition, as with the rest of the Eternity Vault operation, you only need one tank. So a typical strategy is going to be one tank, 5 DPS, 2 healers. If you have a really strong healer, you can go with a 1 tank, 6 DPS, 1 healer strategy if you prefer. That being said, it's typically not necessary because the DPS check is pretty generous as long as you don't have any deaths. And it is worth noting in this fight in particular, AoE healing comes at a premium, so just be aware of that. Now, the quick overview for this fight is that you're going to be engaging Gharj on a series of islands that are surrounded by lava. You're generally going to want to position Gharj to one side of the island due to his stomp mechanic. As many people as possible on the opposite side, and you're just going to DPS him as much as you can. And periodically he's going to go through a frenzy mechanic, which is going to start collapsing the island, as you can see here, which will create a path to get to other islands that the team will need to get to, because eventually this island will fall into the lava, causing you to take increasing amounts of damage. And then you'll basically move from island to island, DPSing him. There's a few other mechanics we'll talk about in a moment in more detail, as well as the strategy. But kind of that's really it. The overall concept of this operation fight is pretty easy. There'll also be some ads, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But the basic concept of this fight is pretty simple to keep up with. It's mostly the key to success, all about positioning. So now let's talk about some of the specific mechanics. Okay, so the first mechanic we need to talk about is lava. We're obviously surrounded by it in this fight. It's almost impossible to not step in it at least once or twice. The boss has a knockback attack we'll talk about. You're seeing there as we're flying through the air. People are going to get knocked into the lava and need to come back. And then here shortly after that, you're going to see we're going to be relocating from one island to the next, having to platform our way across some rocks. And it's difficult to not step in the lava a little bit, which is fine. What you're going to see in the ops frame for most of our characters, and you'll see on my character bar here towards the end, is that I step in lava a little bit. I actually go kind of the shortcut, which we'll talk about. Anytime you step in lava, you get 1 stack of a dot. It doesn't tick super hard. If you stay standing in it, then you'll start to accrue a 2nd stack and a 3rd and a 4th and so on about every 2 to 3 seconds. Once you get up to like 3 or 4 stacks, it starts to be noticeable. Most of the ops group gets a lot of stacks. It's really difficult. So just if you get in lava, run back as quickly as you can. Okay, the next mechanic is primarily a tank-related mechanic called Rend and Swipe. It's an attack the boss uses on the target with aggro. It is a conal attack. So you can see there at the beginning of this clip, the boss was positioned in the back corner of the platform. And then watch how the tank runs immediately to the far corner, so that when Gharj leaps to the new platform, he is almost immediately positioned in the back corner, where you don't have to worry about anyone else getting clipped by the conal. That's definitely the exact way you want to do it, because you don't want anyone else to be getting clipped by that damage. Okay, the next mechanic we're going to talk about is Pulverizing Slam, which is an AoE knockback. You'll see I have a focus target cast bar in the middle of the screen. You'll see that come up. We're going to show it to you twice. So there's the first time. Notice the folks that are near the boss get knocked pretty much straight up, or maybe just a little bit backwards, and the folks on the far side, which this camera angle isn't the best for that, but if you look at the map bar, they actually get knocked back like 20-30 meters. The closer you are to the boss, the less you get knocked back. So melee DPS are generally not going to be knocked out of melee range. Anyone that's at range, the healers or range DPS, typically is going to be knocked off the island. So just run back as quickly as you can. You'll get a few stacks of lava, the dot, which is no big deal, and just heal up. Any movement-based abilities that let you ignore physics, like hold the line or entrench, are good to use preemptively here to avoid knockback. Okay, the next mechanic we're going to talk about is his leap attack. It's an AoE-based attack that has around a 10 to 15 or so meter range. You're going to see him use it here when we push him into Frenzy. And when he enters Frenzy, which we'll talk about in a moment, he spams this attack. Otherwise, he'll just use it periodically. This is hard mode, so you can see it did about a third of my health, minion, my character in this video. So he keeps spamming it, and in hard mode it hits very, very hard. You need people to get out of melee range. You can see here, if you watch how I'm dancing kind of in and out of range, if you're skilled, you can do that and avoid taking damage. It's somewhat difficult to do, or if you have good defensives. And then because we leap over here and reset, so just watch out for that. If you've got a lot of melee comp, you're ready to use defensives. Okay, so another thing before we talk about Frenzy, the main mechanic, you're going to get adds periodically. Anytime the boss is below 50% and you push into Frenzy, and you have to do the relocation thing, you're going to get a wave of adds that spawn pretty much all around the island. So here they can come in just now. They're not a huge priority to deal with. We get a slam, which is particularly convenient. The adds aren't super important to deal with at this point. Like if you have dot spreads or things of that nature, you can throw out some attacks. In general, though, what you really want to do is just have a tank AoE taunt and grab their aggro, run to the next island, and then they'll follow you over there. Ranged can blink at them as they come, but get to the next island, group them up, AoE them down, then go to the boss. If you damage them earlier, great, but that's kind of the simplest, safest way to do it. Okay, last mechanic is Frenzy. Now, anytime he pushes to this phase, you're going to see him start jumping. He's going to start spamming leap, as I mentioned. You're going to see a path. Now, we'll show you a graphic in a minute. There's a number of different platforms, so it's random which one he goes to. You'll either see steps spawn behind the boss as he's positioned, or on the opposite end of the island, or you'll see them more in the middle, curving, either to the left or to the right. So they can connect to any of them. You can see here we're actually kind of skipping one. There's another one to the far left there, and then there'd be two to the right. So it's kind of random where the steps are going to be. The main thing to note is if they're through the boss, you have to run through them. Just go through them as quickly as you can. Otherwise, just watch your step. If you get lava dot, it's okay. Just get to the other side and then heal up and resume the fight. Okay, so again, hopefully graphics are helpful. So here's a nice, hopefully helpful graphic as to how you position the boss on each island. So as you can see, you're going to come in. This is from the position of the very first island, so the steps walking in are going to disappear. Those are in solid black. They'll go away very, very quickly. Generally, you're going to want to position Gharj on one side of the island with a tank in that back corner, preferably as close to the edge as they can get without actually standing in the lava. Your melee DPS have to be behind the boss in range of that leap attack, which is fine. You want your ranged DPS and healers. You don't have to be super tightly grouped up. There's not a ton of AoE damage if you're outside of the leap range. But you want them loosely grouped up. They're going to be knocked back off the lava, into the lava, excuse me, periodically if they don't have various mechanics to cheese it. So that's fine. The main thing is to make sure that Gharj is positioned in such a way that he's not clipping the entire group with his leap AoE attack. Once he starts the frenzy mechanic, you can see here there's actually another path of steps in the middle, but generally speaking, you're going to go left or right. For the most part, and so either one of those is going to be away from the boss, which is really, really easy, or because Gharj doesn't move during that frenzy typically, or you're going to have to go through the boss. That's the trickier one. You can see the range is actually a little bigger than this graphic indicates, so generally the first step or two is maybe in his range. So the key is if he does his leap, you're going to need to like get through him, so usually wait for him to do a leap. As soon as he lands, then run, and then you should be through it before he does another one. Especially in hard mode, if he's cleaving the entire group with that AoE attack, 2 or 3 stomps can be really difficult. So that's the main key. Keep him on one side of the island and then get away from him during the frenzy. Okay, and here's a simplified view of kind of the overall map. Again, technically you can go more than left and right, so you could actually go from Gharj's starting point at the bottom to the upper left and upper right, potentially. But in general, it's going to feel like you're moving in this kind of a pattern. But again, it's random. So you could go, in this example, you could go directly to your left and be at that island, and then go back directly to the right where you started. It is entirely random, so just be prepared for that. But again, same kind of mechanics apply. Watch out for the leap. Watch out for the AoE. Try not to step in lava too much. And then once you get repositioned, the boss is supposed to leap to the new island, but sometimes he'll like walk his way over there. It's kind of a little bit buggy, but once you get him over there, the tank pulls him to a safe corner. Everyone that's ranged or heals gets on the other side, and then just keep on doing what you're doing. Pretty straightforward. Really, the leap is the only part that's particularly dangerous in this fight, and even then, really only in hard mode. Okay, just about done. We've covered all the mechanics. We've kind of covered the overall strategy, so let's just briefly recap what each role should be doing. Again, you only need one tank. A tank's primary job is to keep aggro on the boss, keep them faced towards a corner. And anytime you have adds below 50%, try to keep aggro on them if you can. Whenever the frenzy mechanic starts, get yourself relocated quickly. And as soon as you get the boss to the new island, hold him to a safe corner. As close as you can to the edge without actually standing in lava is always good. DPS, if you're melee DPS, you're going to have to be in range of the boss, so make sure you are behind him. Whenever he starts doing his spamming, his leap attack during Frenzy, if you're able to use ranged attacks to continue dealing damage or dance in and out of his range, do that, but just be careful. The DPS check on this fight isn't particularly hard, so better to avoid damage if you don't really know what you're doing. Healers just obviously need to heal, stay outside of range of the leap attack at all times, and just know that if you have more than about one or two, like if you have mostly a melee DPS composition, be prepared for AoE healing, and so gear and tactical and all that stuff, and ability priority choices should be consistent with that. And that's really it. The only other thing is when you get to the end there, sometimes the island can disappear, so just watch your step. If the island is in the middle of a frenzy when he dies and the island's still shaking, you either want to quickly loot and then get to a safe spot, or everyone get to a safe spot and then come back. Sometimes it can be a little buggy there, but yep, pretty good fight, pretty easy fight. I think it's a fun one. And then after that, you're kind of off to the 3 puzzle bosses that finish out the operation. So again, hope this was helpful to everyone in completing the Eternity Vault operation, and good luck in all your gaming. Thanks very much. And now we'll show just a full kill video from a hard mode perspective, so you can kind of see how all this is put together for a relatively clean kill.
Gharj, whom the alchemists of a younger age sought to emulate, but all would fail. Look upon Gharj and